Everybody come and listen, because there's nothing else to listen to except that row. Okay, thank you and welcome to those that are here and listening to this month's wedding critique. Those of you that are members will know that I do this each month, and I usually do it as a webinar, so you don't get the pleasure of actually seeing me squirm. So this will be slightly different. I will make a very simple statement. The wedding photography standard in this country at present is terrible. And that is because it is so damn simple for people to pick up a camera and go out and take pictures at weddings badly. If they take enough photographs, they can easily give a bride 200, 300, 400 pictures. If they take 2,000 or 3,000 images, they can easily do it. And unfortunately, brides are uneducated. They don't know the difference between good, bad and indifferent. And that is why the general standard of wedding photography in the UK is the worst I've known it for 50 years. And that is saying something. And it's so bad now because people don't know the right and wrong things to do at a wedding because they've never been trained. This wedding monthly critique is all about training. It's about us helping you improve by noticing what's right and wrong in your pictures. If you know what's right and wrong in your pictures, you can change it and you can improve yourself month on month on month. So I'm now going to get down to it. And the first thing is an enormous thank you to Loxley's because they sponsor this particular monthly award. They give a £50 first prize to the winning photograph, and the winning photograph is the photograph that I remember at least 2 weeks after I've done a webinar. It's the picture that stands out and sticks in my mind for many, many different reasons. If you have any questions at any point, you're quite welcome to ask, because this is interactive. It isn't just me sitting and looking at my computer, it's me teaching you from these pictures. So the first photograph is delightful, it's different, and that's the thing with wedding photography, is that every wedding should be different. Every single wedding you do should be unlike the wedding you did last week and last month. The problem with this photograph is it's not been taken in the right place. And looking at a couple of you that have tried reading what those placards are actually saying is because the background is so damn bright that it's actually distracting from them. If the whole of the background had been like that building on the left, it would have been so much easier to read what is there. But your eyes will always go to the brightest part of a picture, and your eyes are being dragged away from those people and into the skyline, and therefore the picture's losing the effect. And it's only when somebody squinted his eyes and read what it said did he actually laugh. And it should hit you straight away. It shouldn't be something you have to work hard to create. This is beautiful. This is a classical wedding picture. You couldn't call this documentary or anything like that. It is a beautifully contrived, controlled, classical wedding picture. The hands are beautiful. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. Is it a good wedding picture? And for this bride, it is a good wedding picture. It shows her dress, it shows her bouquet, her veil. It shows all the things that she's paid an awful lot of money to actually create. And in terms of lighting, in terms of effect, when you look at that, you remember it because it is so different. Now, this photographer was either drunk or he believes that if you make it crooked, it makes it artistic. Because it just looks wrong. He's leaning on the bench, but again, the biggest problem in that picture is that massive amount of sky in the background. When, as a wedding photographer or an environmental portrait photographer, you should be thinking about the background of the image as much as you do the subjects and anything else. The bride and groom are the important prime part of the picture. But if the background is dragging you away from the bride and groom, then you as the photographer are not doing what you should be doing, which is controlling the image. So the couple look nice, the couple look as if they're having a conversation. I see no point in it being crooked, it's not adding to the picture. But if you actually take away that whole bright sky area and recrop it, it becomes a better picture. Where this, on the other hand, is a much, much better classical picture. You can only look at two things, which is the couple. Now, this is a same-sex wedding, and that makes no difference to how you approach a wedding. I've done a few of these, and the most difficult thing is when you turn around and say, can I have the bride's family? Because you're not quite sure which one of the two of them is deciding they're brides. And therefore, you've got to be a little bit more diplomatic. But this is a lovely picture. It's a lovely portrait. The photographer has taken the time and trouble to find the right venue. And once he or she has found the right venue, they've put it inside that archway. They've got the whole of the arch in it, which adds to the framing of the picture. But then what they've done is they've laid out the bride's dress, and that is quite beautiful. So again, this is a very classical wedding picture, and it's been handled very classically. This also is very classical. Again, the photographer's found the right place in which to take the picture. The photographer's seen that beautiful settee in front of the painting, and he's taken the picture. They've laid the dress out beautifully as well. Two or three little mistakes. The first mistake is that the frame of the image behind should not be cutting through their necks. It's actually cutting off the bride's head from her shoulders. If the photographer had gone down lower or up higher, that line should not be cropping through the head or the neck. And it's the same in pictures outside with horizon lines. Horizon lines should not be dissecting people's heads from their shoulders. And the other mistake on this picture is that the bride's eyes are actually looking too far round. If you're a person that likes rules, the rule is that your eyes, the pupil of your eye, should be following the line of your nose. Therefore, if you turn a head that way and the nose is going that way, then that's the way that your eyes should be going. There's no good turning the head there, having the nose there, and then putting the eyes up there in a totally different area. It's completely wrong, and it looks wrong. And that's what's happened with this picture. This is beautiful. It's classical, it's been posed, it's been put together. Whether you like the filter that's been put on it is always going to be a matter of personal taste. And that personal taste is up to the photographer. Remember, when you go and shoot a wedding, you are not shooting a wedding to please the bride or the groom or the parents or anybody else. When you go and shoot a wedding, you are there to please you as the photographer. Why? Because the bride booked you. The bride booked you because of your style, your personality. It should never be your price, because price must never come into it. They book you because of who you are. They book you because you're the best, because you've told them you're the best, because you're qualified as a professional, unlike all the unqualified photographers that are dragging the industry down into the rubbish at the bottom of the pile. Being qualified separates you from everybody else who don't think enough of themselves to become qualified. This photographer has a style. This photographer has a unique style that he shows to every bride, and that bride books him because of his style. Therefore, when he goes out and shoots a wedding, he has got to shoot the wedding to please himself and his style, because that is why they pay thousands of pounds to book him. And I know this particular photographer, and he does charge thousands of pounds, and he is a very, very busy Scottish photographer, and we won't hold that against him. I saw something the other day that 400 years ago, Scotland and England became one country. Yeah, you try telling the bloody Scots that. They've never been one country. They've never wanted to be part of us. Put bleeding Hadrian's Wall back up, for Christ's sake. But anyway, this particular photographer is a genius. This photograph tells me everything I want to know. This couple are in love. This couple adore each other. It's not she likes him but he's not so keen. This couple show me how much they like each other. Well, that's normal, isn't it? You know, she likes you, yeah, you're happy, you know. Depends what division you're playing in, okay? This couple love each other, and it comes out in the picture. Look how beautiful her hands are. Those hands are absolutely superb, the way they've been posed. And they've been posed, and that's what shows me what a good photographer this is. Now, this, on the other hand, is not, for two reasons. One, the background is too strong and powerful. If you had turned that picture black and white, you wouldn't have noticed the background as much as you do now. But that background is overbearing the bride. You have struggles looking at the bride because you're looking at the background. And the second thing is her hands. Her hands are posed terribly. And he's then cut through the hands. If he had posed the hands properly, then the hands should have been left in the picture in their entirety, and this would have been a better picture. What this picture does tell me is this is a good wedding photographer because of the expression. I can teach anybody how to be a photographer. I can teach anybody how to be rich. I can teach anybody how to be a good wedding photographer. There is no one that can teach you how to get expressions. If you don't like another human being, you ain't ever going to get an expression from them. If you like people, if you like children, if you like conversing with people, and you can create expressions as good as that, then you will be a good wedding or portrait photographer. And nobody can teach you that, because that's the thing that comes naturally. This again, exactly the same thing. The expressions are fabulous because the photographer has told the four people what to do. He's put them in a position, he's created that image and allowed them to be themselves. Again, the one thing that's letting this down is that skyline on the left-hand side. Looking at that picture, if this photographer had spun round to the left about 3 or 4 feet, it would have got rid of that big white area, and all of the background would have been those trees. And that's what you want in the background. Remember, a good picture, the background should not be dragging your eye away from what the subject is. I love this image. This has got so much life and spontaneity in it. It's got so much oomph. And sometimes you can never find the right word for a picture. She's having fun. She's enjoying herself. And she's enjoying herself because the photographer is getting her to enjoy herself. He's probably made her walk up half a bleeding mountain to get there. But even so, he's creating images. Everything about that image is absolutely fabulous. And it really, really works brilliantly. Another good shot. Another good shot because the hands are nice. The only thing I'm not so keen on are those circles of confusion in the background. There's too many of them. In Photoshop, in this day and age, you can tone down those highlights as easy as anything. You can just go bosh, burning tool, 10, 15, 20% in the highlights, and that would take those spots down, and then you've got a better image. But look at their expressions, look at their faces, look at the way she is looking vibrant and happy. That's a photographer allowing people to work and work with each other. Now, when you do weddings, you always look at a couple and you say, who is prime and who is secondary? A bride should always be prime. The groom is secondary. If you put the two of them together, they become prime, and everybody else at the wedding becomes secondary to them. This is a good picture because what you're doing is you're showing me her face because she's prime, and you're showing me the back of his head because he's secondary. If you had actually posed that picture the other way round, it would be completely wrong. So always do your posing of your pictures so that the bride is the person that is seen the most. Now, this was the picture I was thinking of when we were talking about your panel, and this is a formal wedding group picture. And so many brides say, oh, do you have to take those formal pictures because they're so boring? They don't have to be boring. They have to be wedding pictures that you can involve the people into, that you can get people to feel as if they're having fun at the wedding. And this is showing you, what is it, 7 different pairs of people all doing their own thing and having fun, and you put it all together and it becomes a fabulous wedding picture. It isn't 2 sets of people, it's 7 sets of people that come together that make up a fabulous picture. What's wrong with that? When you look at it, you go, oh yeah, there's a bride there, but you actually see that dolloping great flower, whatever the hell it is. Now, the photographer at some point must have thought, oh, that flower's nice, I think I'll get that in the picture. The problem is the flower has completely destroyed the wedding picture. You're not working for the florist at all. You are working for the bride and groom. And therefore, don't put things into pictures that shouldn't be there. Again, I love this because she's looking radiant, she's looking vibrant. The leading line of his hand on that banister that draws you into them, the hand around the back of the neck looks really fabulous. It's a great shot because there's a bit of life in it, there's a bit of vibrance in it. I love the way she's leaning over. I love the way he's trying to sort of kiss her, but you know, he's sort of having to lean into it and work a bit harder for it. The lighting is excellent, and this is what I was saying to somebody earlier. When you go into a situation, the first thing you've got to do is find the light. Once you've found the light, once you've found where the main light is coming from, that will then tell you where you should be posing the bride and groom. There's no point in putting them into any area at all that isn't the right light, because otherwise they're just going to look drab and they're going to look lifeless, and you are just not going to see what you need to see. And you need that light on their faces. You then turn the bride's dress away from the light so that you get texture in the dress. What you don't want in the dress is burnt out big highlights that are coming through the windows. So make sure that you turn the bride's body away from the main light, but you turn her face to the light. Wedding photography is very simple because you know who you're working for. You know that you're working for a bride, and you know that everything you do within that wedding is going to revolve around her. And everything you are putting together is what you're putting together around her. The groom is secondary to her. The rest of the guests are secondary to her. And if you're doing documentary photography, she's still got to be the focal point of all of the wedding, of the pictures. Because if you're not doing that, then you're not doing what you're being paid for. And that is showing her and promoting her. Okay, so if we look at this, and this is much more of a documentary style picture. The problem is I can't see enough of what's actually happening. I know she's having her makeup done, but that's it. The blinds have become so prominent within the picture that it's actually the blinds that it looks as if the photographer's photographing. So it hasn't worked. This I love, and it's funny that today the weather outside is so dreadful with the mini beast from the east, because this is what I liked about your pictures of all the men shots, is there is nothing worse than a bunch of 5, 6, 7, 8 groomsmen at a wedding feeling as if they're just an appendage, that they've just been invited to buy the drinks. And I think at a wedding, the men need to enjoy themselves as much as the women. They need to get involved. They need to really have fun. And these blokes are having fun. And what I like about this is the photographer has told them what to do. And he doesn't mind if he gets a face full of snow for the sake of a photograph. And that's what I love. You're willing to do anything to get the picture. And that's what separates. This one I love as well, because again, this now is really documentary. It's put them in a position and taking the picture as if you just happened to walk along and snap a photograph. And that I think is so good that it looks as if it's completely spontaneous, but it's actually contrived. And the sharpness is what does it. What I don't like is where the men have put their hands. Men should not stand cuddling their nuts. That looks awful in any male portraits. Don't do it. It's as simple as that. They should put their hands in their pockets or just let their hands drop down by their sides. They can put their thumbs in their waistcoats and anything else. Now this I love because again, it's another groom shot. The photographer's posed them up in a particular area and then the photographer has said, now run at me. And you know full well the kids are going to have a bundle. And you know full well the kids are going to enjoy themselves 10 times more than the grown-ups. Look at those two on the left. Do they want to be there? No, they don't. But those kids are enjoying it. And in fact, you notice the kids and you don't really notice the blokes. This, Becky, is the picture, okay? This is what I was trying to explain to you. That photographer has pressed the button at exactly the right time. Not a second too soon or a second too late. He's pressed the button at exactly the right time because that is fabulous. It tells you everything about that wedding. He is so damn lucky to be marrying somebody that's out of his division. You know, he's wallowing down in the championship and she's premiership. And he's just married her. And the registrar has said, you two are now married. And he's gone, yes! Because he's over the moon. And that picture tells me everything about that wedding. And I think it's fabulous. Okay, the lighting was there. The wedding was happening. But if you as the photographer don't press the button at exactly the right time, you've lost it. And that's the art and the mark of a good photographer. A lovely image, classical, simple, but it's simple because it's been done well. And it's been done well because the photographer has seen where the light is. He's seen exactly where the main light is coming into the picture and he's taken the picture perfectly because those eyes just look absolutely gorgeous. A simple picture. We don't know the story of why they're all umbrellas. We don't know the reason why, but what we know is that it's been set up and it means something to them. And again, the photographer's pressed the button at the right time. There's no umbrella going through her ear or her face or covering them up or whatever. The confetti is great. Everything about that works. I see a lot of these pictures, and if you were working for the bridal dress shop, then this is a great shot because it's a picture of a bridal dress. It's not a picture of a bride because I haven't got a clue who she is. I've got no way of knowing who that girl is. Now, you do exactly the same pose and you get her to turn her head as a silhouette and then it's a perfect picture because then I would be able to see her. I would be able to see who she is. Her expression destroys that picture because she's not convincing me that she's enjoying herself. She's not convincing me that she's having fun. She's not convincing me that she wants to be there. The plants are quite nice, but again, You do not need those 5 or 6 inches at the top of the photograph. All of that sky area is pointless because it's not adding to the picture. It's the couple that I want to look at. The hand on the shoulder looks a bit like a claw. She's just plonked that hand on his shoulder, and the photographer should have moved it very slightly to have created a bit more finesse in the photograph. This is quite interesting, but it looks more of a studio shot than it does of a wedding shot. And it might have been shot in a studio, I don't know. I love the eyes because of the reflection of the light bouncing back off of the mirror. I haven't got a clue what it says on the back of the mirror, but it makes me want to read it, which is wrong. I don't want to read the mirror. I shouldn't look or want to see what the mirror is. I want to see her eyes, and I want the eyes to be what sells me the photograph, and this doesn't. Now you can now instantly tell that this is by the same photographer that took that picture earlier, and that's what I mean by style. Now that is his style. Now when his associateship panel comes up on Tuesday, I expect to see 20 images looking like that, because that's his style. And he is unique. There's nobody else I know that is creating the images. And in fact, if you look at the image on my laptop compared to up there, it is 100 times better on my laptop than it is up there. Just come and have a look. Those of you that are interested, come and have a look at the colour that he has put into that image. That tonal range of that image. And that's unique to him. I don't see anybody else doing that. And that's why I love his style of work. This is what I was talking about earlier, about you very rarely get a really good photograph of a first dance at a wedding. Last month we saw a really good one in the critiques. This one is very poor. It's just a mass of people in a room. Most of them can't dance. The lighting is just boring. It's just a no-no picture. And okay, it might work in a wedding album. It's never going to work in a competition. In fact, if you're a member and you get your magazine this week, you're going to see this photograph is in our magazine, I think in one of the articles about why should you employ a professional photographer. And that article is so important. Why should brides book a professional photographer? Well, that's why. That's one of the reasons why. Because you're going to get something that's different. You're going to get something that's totally them and not anybody else. And that is what's important. It's what you bring to the party. That is a fabulous picture. Now, the funny thing is, if you look at this picture and you look at that picture 2 or 3 images ago of the girl's eyes with the compact mirror, this one is fabulous. That one was a mess because the mirror was making me look at the back of the mirror. Here, I can only look at one thing, and that's her eye. And that draws me into the photograph, which is fabulous. This again is a beautiful image. Now this is beautiful because the whole scene, it's not a picture of a bride. It's a bride in an environment. The environment is beautiful. The sky is not detracting from the overall picture because the sky blends into the mountains that goes into the lake. What is nice is that horizon line of the seafront or lake or whatever it is. It can't be a lake if it's got waves in it, can it? So it's got to be tidal, I'm guessing. What do I know? But what it's doing is it's actually on her shoulders. It's not dissecting her head from her shoulders. If the photographer had gone up or down and that had cropped through her neck, it would have been awful. So that whole picture has been beautifully designed. Where this, on the other hand, is a complete no-no. It's a mess. I mean, in the audience in front of me of 200 people, I'm seeing people squinting and going, well, where the hell's the bride? And that's the problem. You've made the tree on the left the single most important thing in the photograph. That tree is not paying you for being at the wedding. The building is not the most important thing. It just happens to be the venue that they get drunk in. What you've done is you've made the tree and the building more important than the bride and groom. The bride and groom should have actually come right the way forward, roughly to the same level of where the tree is, photographed them with the building in the background out of focus, and then that would have been an infinitely better picture. That is a documentary photograph with emotion. Where and when it was taken at the wedding, probably the reception, I'm guessing, but I could be completely wrong. But there is emotion happening within the picture, and it's that emotion that the photographer needs to capture to get in the picture, and that's important. Another photograph where the bride and groom have not been made prominent enough. You needed to bring them another 30, 40, 50 feet towards you and then photograph them with that church in the background. You've got that massive sky that is detracting from them and the surroundings, and therefore you've not realised that it's the bride and groom that is the most important thing. Now here, again, it's a bride where the expression is a little bit iffy. I'd like her to perhaps been a little bit happier. But I don't understand why you've left all this mess on the left-hand side. Why have you left that rope in there and that bit of fencing in there? It is adding nothing to the picture. And nor is that skyline in the top left-hand corner. That sky is not adding to the picture. The picture is him nutting his bride. The picture is him trying to be romantic, which most men find difficult. But it's happening in that right-hand part of the picture. Okay, for those of you that are members, you will know that I've produced a webinar on hands. It's only £7.99 for charity, but that hands webinar will teach you about hands. And this photographer needs to read it and listen to it and look at it 3 times over, because that looks as if she's going to scratch his ear off. It looks as if she's going to pull the ear off his head, or she's going to scratch his eyes out. That is not a pretty hand. It's an ugly hand. His hand round her waist looks enormous. He should have let that hand just drift away, because her arm with her bouquet is pleasant. You've got the sun coming through their bodies. It's pleasant. But his hand looks too big and clumpy, and her hand looks like a claw and more of a weapon than a hand. Now this is reasonably interesting. It's a couple on a bus, and we're guessing that the bus or the coach has taken them to the reception or something like that. He's holding her hands. I just wish her eyes had been looking at his eyes, and then it would have been a better connection between the two of them. As it is, he looks as if he wants to be there. She's thinking of something different. Now again, this is another picture where you've got to ask yourself, what's the most important thing in the picture? Is it the flowers or is it the bride and groom? Now what you've got is an overlit bride and groom, because whether you've used the flash, and I think you've used the flash, or whether it's the sunlight or whatever, when I'm looking at that picture, all I can see is a huge mass of red, and it's just taking me away from looking at the most important thing, which is the bride and groom. Where this one, I can only look at the bride and groom. Although I think you've got too much tree on the left. I don't need to see that massive great tree. I think you could have come in a good 4 or 5 inches and cropped through the edge of that bent tree on the left. But the hand is nice. I don't like seeing bouquets growing out the side of grooms' heads. I don't think they're pretty in any way at all. You could have discarded it. Just because they've bought the bloody thing, it doesn't mean it has to be in every single one of 1,000 images. But the way they're looking at each other works, and the way you framed them works. Now, the main problem with this one is the photographer has shot the image too low down. And because he's gone so low down, he's actually made the bride bigger than she really is. You've made the bride look very Amazonian. And that is a great, great pity. The sky I can live with. You've got the nice sunset in the background. The dress looks a bit of a mess on the left, but then we've got all these arms around her waist as if she needs to be held up. His hand needed to go underneath her elbow, and that would have then looked more supportive and it would have looked prettier. But by coming down so low, you've just made them look massive. I love that. I love the lighting. It's what we call broadside lighting on the bride, but it's got a feel about it. It's got a serenity about it. It's definitely posed. However it's lit is not important, but the photographer has seen the light and used the light, and that light coming across her really works well. The next two look very much like studio portraits, whether they're fashion pictures for the bride, for the bouquet, for the dress or whatever. I've got no way of knowing. But her expression is what bothers me most. It isn't convincing me of anything more than the photographer saying, look at me. And that's all that's happening, is the photographer has said, look at me, she's done it, he's taken the picture. There's no emotion, there's no expression to convince me of what's going on. And this one again, it just looks contrived to the point of unbelievability. I can't see who she is, because if this is a studio portrait, the photographer needed to move that hair away from her face so I can see who the face is. What she's doing with her feet and her dress is quite fun, but I just think at the top end he's lost it. Okay, those of you that don't know, when we do these monthlies, I award a highly commended, a runner-up and a winner. You are not going to agree with the winner because I look at your expressions as I've been bringing images up. And I know you're not going to like what I've chosen as the winner, but guess what? I don't care, because I'm the judge. I was invited as the judge, therefore it's the picture I chose. And that's what photography is. It's it's not maths. It's not 2 + 2. It's what we like, our emotional feelings about the style of what we look at. Some of you will like Picasso, some of you will like Renoir, and that's what art is, and that's what photography is. Now what we do, or what I do, is I will only give one photographer one highly commended. So even if he's put in 3 images and they all deserve a highly commended, I choose the one image of his 3 that deserve the highly commended the most. Otherwise, I'd be giving 50 highly commendeds. So the first highly commended, so this photograph was taken by Karen Fuller, and she's one of our really, really good wedding photographers in the MPA that is winning highly commendeds on a regular monthly basis. So Karen Fuller, well done, congratulations. This is by Belinda Buxton, who is at the show, so why she's not standing here to get her £1,000 prize, I don't understand. But again, I love this because it's totally controlled. Yes, it's very classical, but that doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's completely controlled and put together beautifully. This is by Martin Strivens, and Martin won our portrait monthly competition with a fabulous studio portrait. He's now got a highly commended with this image, and I know looking at faces, a few of you think that this should be the overall winner, because when it came up I saw the faces. So Martin will wish that you were the judge instead of me. But I love it because that to me is everything about wedding photography but different, and I think it's got so much in it. If I was a bride, I would want him doing my wedding photography because I know he's going to make my day. Then this is by Gary Durbridge, a young man that only became a licentiate of the MPA last month. He's a smashing young man, very arrogant, and he reminds me of me 30 years ago. And he hates me saying that, but it's true. I was just like him 30 years ago. So Gary Durbridge is over from the Essex area, and I love the whole feel of this particular image. And this is by David Bostock. He's probably one of our best documentary wedding photographers. He has a unique style. He really gets it, if that makes sense. As a documentary wedding photographer, he gets it. He takes the pictures at the right time. He understands light and composition, but he presses the button at the right time. And that's a unique art. This is by Graham Hewitson. Again, somebody that wins a lot of awards in our monthly competitions, not just in weddings, but in portraits as well. And this is by Martin Leckie. Those of you earlier saw the quality of it, and Martin Leckie is probably, at the moment, one of the best wedding photographers in the UK, and his work is quite exceptional, and I am really, really looking forward to seeing his associateship panel, because he's been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and I think he's sick and tired of me giving him a kick up the arse. So I think at long last he's going to put himself on the line. This is by somebody I don't know, even though she's standing in the audience laughing her socks off. And this is by Karen Massey. Purely and simply, Karen wins awards every month. And Karen is the only one in the audience that's got highly commended, so she gets a Toblerone. Yay! And you'll see, if you're a member, this is in our magazine this month, and it's a fabulous picture. Now, this is a quirk, because when you enter the monthlies, you're supposed to enter them with your first and last name, so I know when you get highly commended who I'm talking about. Well, this photographer is so famous, he calls himself Roman. But I can't find a Roman anywhere on our database. No. So who the hell Roman is, I've got no way of knowing. But Roman's got a highly commended. And when I find him, I'm going to slap him, because I want to know who he is. So, okay. The runner-up. Now, the runner-up, the importance of the runner-up is they find out who the winner is, and they go and give the winner a kick-in to say, if you hadn't have entered, I would have won, okay? But the runner-up this month is Martin Leckie. And Martin Leckie is from Scotland, as I say, and I love his work. And the winner, and you won't agree with it, and I don't care, but the winner is Karen Fuller. Now, Karen Fuller couldn't be here today because guess what? She's working. Therefore, she's earning money. Unlike all of you in the audience, she's actually making money today. She couldn't be here, so Karen Fuller is this month's wedding photographer of the month. She will get a gold rosette that I will then send to her, and she will get publicity on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and she will book other weddings because of it. She will get more work because she's been awarded this month's wedding photographer. And that is what this is all about. It's about you learning, but it's about you also getting publicity. And that publicity is worth its weight in gold because it will get you more customers. And that's what the MPA is all about. We're training you, we're helping you, we're mentoring you, but at the end of the day, we're making you better businessmen, and we're giving you better businesses as well. And that is so, so important. So once again, I would like to thank Loxley Colour, because Karen will now get that £50 first prize, and without them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, because Loxleys are really supportive in everything we do. So thank you very much to each and every one of you for listening. I hope the 200 of you have enjoyed it, and it's been worth standing around for 40 or 50 minutes. And hopefully, if you're members of the MPA, you will be able to see the other monthlies that we've done this month. So as I've already got a standing ovation, because you're all having to stand up, thank you for being here.